Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And we're going to do a continuation of your story about the pandemic.
That's right. We finished off where I was heading out the country. James the Bewildered had entertained Mr. Virus pandemic, whether he was, I don't know what way he was supposed to be, but I headed out and I had some items with me to take care of being away for a few days. I was heading out what we call a boreen in this country, but in other countries they might know what a boreen is. It's a narrow road, a narrow Irish country road that's not tarred. And usually if you're heading up towards the hills or those type of places, you'd often have these boreens or lanes or whatever you like to call them. They're not tarred. So I was heading out there after this business of this Mr. Virus pandemic, calling without an invite and all the rest of it. And what happened, what I said in the first episode of this Mr. Virus pandemic. So I headed out the boreen with my little items that I would need while I would be away, because now and again when I felt the need, I had a little shack up the mountain. Well, you wouldn't call it, it wasn't a high mountain. You'd come across sheep and all the rest of it up there, and maybe an odd cattle. So I was heading out, and as I was heading out, the sort of alarm that I felt with this virus pandemic, calling without an invite, I was admiring the birds singing. The blackbirds and the thrushes and the robins were in full bloom, because it was in early spring when the buds are coming on the trees. And as I passed, I noticed the cows grazing, chewing the cud, and the whole thing was so peaceful and tranquil. It sort of brought back what life is all about. This is what it's about. It's not the hustle and bustle and running around that sometimes we do. Here I was walking up the boreen. I'll have to call it a boreen because we're doing this. This situation happened in a country town in Ireland where I wasn't expecting any visits from any Mr. Virus pandemics. So out the country I went, and I wouldn't be meeting or passing I wouldn't be passing any houses. And as I say, it was admiring the singing of the birds. Now, mind you, was interrupted now and again because crows were often joining in the music, but they can't sing, and so they were croaking. And it often reminded me of some individuals, if you happen to be at a wedding or some function, and some lad said, "I'll sing a ditty." And he liked the crow. And so, anyways, I headed out, and but funny enough, as I was going along, I met a man that's kind of known, but he's kind of a hermit. He comes down from the hills now and again, and he lives up there all the time. And I said, and we greeted one another, and I said, "Where are you going now?" Well, he said, "I'd often people leave food for me at further along the road here, and I collect it and bring it up to my hermitage, my little abode where I'm a hermit." "Oh, is that so?" And he said to me then, "Where are you going?" Well, I said, "There was a Mr. Virus pandemic called to the house. He wasn't invited. Did you hear anything about a virus pandemic? Did he call to you by any chance up in the mountain in your hermitage, in your hermit's hut?" And he said, "No," he said, I don't be in touch with anything like that. I'm in touch with nature," he says. Oh, well, I said, I won't, I'll leave you to that anyways, but I'm heading up to I have a little place up the hills as well. And I'm heading up there. I don't think this Mr. Virus pandemic or anything like that is going to come up there because, first of all, I have no radio or anything, so I won't know what's happening. But I'm going to stay quite up there for quite some time until we see what way the land lies because this virus pandemic seems to have affected a lot of people. And they're not putting their snout outside the door now at all. Whatever is wrong with them, they're apparently under orders from this government. That's I don't know what they're at, but they have them all sort of apparently. This virus pandemic is knocking about a good few places. He'll hardly be up here where we're going, because there's nothing. What would he be going up there for? So this story is going to be continued again. That'll be
Another continuation.
Oh,
Very
yes,
good,
it's,
very
it's
good.
not over yet by a
Not
long
over.
talk.
Yes. And neither is the pandemic, I think, for a while. Anyway, that's great. Thanks very much, John.
Thanks.